The only reason you'd buy it is if you didn't drive any other car on a test drive.
And you were visually impaired because you can't see how ugly it is.
And shouldn't be driving in the first place. It's like saying that Fabergé egg is the worst of my Fabergé egg collection. I think we need more PT Cruiser people out there. They find beauty in the ugliness. And I think that should be celebrated. So obviously calling a car the worst from a manufacturer is a massive, massive call, but we do have some criteria to stick to.
That's right. We're focusing on cars that were available in Australia, kind of the mainstream ones, not the cars made in Australia because that market doesn't exist anymore.
No. Also, we're going to ignore some of the brands that, say like Alpine, they only had really one car here, so no point in including that.
Yeah.
BYD, they've only existed here for about 15 minutes. They haven't had the opportunity to make a good or a worst or best car as such.
Just too new.
Exactly. And also, we're going to try to keep this as objective as we can, but obviously with a subject like this, some personal opinion, some subjectivity is going to weave its way in.
Yeah, these aren't the worst cars ever made. They're just like the worst cars from a given manufacturer. Our opinion on that. Also, they're the worst right now. So there are some cars that we list that were classics at the time, but now, bad. Some might even be collectible, but that doesn't make them a good car.
Exactly. Also, because we have 50 or so brands in Australia, this is going to be a two-parter. We're doing A to J and then J to V.
Actually, a four-parter, because we're going to do the best cars later.
Exactly, but we'll get to that later in the video. Okay, first up, Abarth. And the way we're going to do this, we're going to have a couple of nominees and then a winner, maybe even two winners, depending on the manufacturer. First nominee, or only nominee for Abarth, is the 695 Biposto. Now look, this is a cracking little car. However,
it is very special.
It's a special thing, but you want how much for it? No. With the special trick gearbox in Australia, it was nearly $100,000. Without that, it was like $85,000. I'm sorry, it is. No matter how special it is not worth that.
Compared to what else you can get for $100,000, that is
exactly
insane.
Right. But the winner for Abarth are the early 500s, especially with that bloody horrible automated gearbox thing.
Yeah, the automated manual, they are hard on clutches. They just tear the clutches apart. We've done plenty of them in the workshop and over the years, and they're a bit weird to drive as well. If you're driving it enthusiastically, it's kind of weird, and you want it to shift like you, but it doesn't. You just have to be patient and wait for it.
And then aside from that, the car itself has a bunch of other reliability and mechanical concerns. Backup support's terrible from that company here in Australia. That's the worst car they've done.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Alfa Romeo and our nominees. The 4C. Okay.
There were plenty to choose from, but these are our two nominees.
Exactly. Oh, I should mention as well, obviously there are some older Alphas and older Fords and older cars that are probably shocking, but we're sticking to the cars that are sort of available to all of us.
Yeah,
so
nothing too old.
Nothing too old, nothing too crazy rare. So
basically we're making the rules up as we go.
Basically, yeah. Okay, 4C, just buy on a lease.
Yeah.
It's better in every conceivable way. The dual clutch transmission in this was a nightmare. Dynamically, it was pretty shocking on anything but billiard smooth roads. It bounced all over the place. It lacked any of the nuance of a Lotus Elise. I think it was more expensive than a Lotus Elise.
Yeah, it was.
Looks amazing. Yeah. But just no, that's only a nominee.
Yep.
Yours, I think you've got a...
Well, I nominate the Alfa 147. Just generally speaking, it was way below average, reliability. That cellar speed transmission was utter just crap. It was just the worst thing ever. That's my nominee.
Underwhelming little car.
Terrible build quality too.
The winner from Alfa Romeo, the worst Alfa made, is the Mito. Look, this is based on the Fiat Punto, which even at the time was an outdated platform. This thing was an absolute mess from the off. Dynamically, ergonomics inside, build quality, just shocking. Incredible depreciation.
Yeah, not their best work.
Shouldn't have an Alfa badge on it. It's an embarrassment to Alfa Romeo, that little piece of shit.
Yeah, not good.
Okay, next up, Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Nominee?
DB9.
Yeah. Sexy looking thing, mechanically super complicated, unbelievably expensive to repair, V12, lots of things to go wrong. This was the first Aston Martin, I would call it the new school Aston Martin, so in their defence they were still trying to get stuff sorted out, even including where the finances were coming from.
Yeah. Quirky and some would say collectible, but definitely not their best work.
No. Have you got any other nominees?
I do.
Okay.
It's...
Do it.
My nominee is, not the worst car Toyota have ever made, because it's the Aston Martin Signet.
Yeah.
Not a bad Toyota, but a terrible Aston Martin.
I think that was created because of, I know it was like some legislation issues. They had to have like
Don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care why. I want to be in that. It's got to be just a marketing thing, right?
Yeah.
Just not a bad Toyota, terrible Aston Martin.
Speaking of not caring, I don't care that the winner for Aston Martin is fast. I don't care that you can put a bunch of people and stuff in it. The worst car they've made is the DBX.
Why?
They shouldn't make an SUV.
They should stay in their lane.
Look, I get that by the DBX existing might mean that the rest of Aston Martin can keep afloat.
Yeah.
Whatever, cool. I just think this is Aston Martin pandering to the market.
Yeah,
Rather than
definitely.
going, we make these sorts of GT performance cars, they're like, oh, well, we better make an SUV because everybody else is getting them. And it kind of kills me that they're getting
To their
popular.
credit, it is on their own platform, though.
It is, but it's got an AMG engine.
Yeah.
It's just
True.
Nah,
Yeah.
just no.
Yeah, no.
I know. Yeah, there's not a lot of objectivity behind that. That's just my opinion. That
Yeah, fair call.
It's ruining Aston Martin. Sorry. Okay, next up is Audi. This could be a controversial one.
Yeah, we're starting here with the A4, about the 2009 to 2011. Look, terrible reliability overall. Build quality is pretty terrible. Lots of oil leaks, a lot of engine problems, a lot of transmission issues.
Yep.
Yeah, not their best work.
Also, it's just not as well finished as something like a Mazda 6 or a Lexus IS, which does everything an A4 does, just better in every way.
Yeah, of its time compared to the Lexus, it's a terrible car.
Absolutely. Mate, your other nomination?
I've just basically said anything with a 3-litre TDI.
Yeah.
Just vomit, basically. They're in a bunch of Audis. If it's a 3-litre TDI, I would steer clear of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been in the workshop seeing what the guys have got to do with some of these 3-litre TDI engines, and they are a nightmare.
Scope creep is real with these. You'll start doing one job, and next minute you'll have broken things, more leaks and other issues, and then you're waiting for parts.
Yep.
And it nearly always doubles in price and time. They're just a nightmare.
But the winner, and this is going to upset a couple of my mates, Aaron especially, it is the first generation Q7, but especially with the V12. Okay, V12 is always awesome, right? But unbelievably expensive to keep this thing on the road. And the Q7 in general, that first gen, it's just not aging
they're
well.
falling apart. They're all just, literally just falling apart.
This is one of those examples where, as a brand new car, and maybe for the first 5 years, actually probably a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
But right now, oh God, no, an absolute disaster. The reason it takes the award out for the worst Audi is because I feel like people still fall for it, thinking, oh, it's an Audi and it's an SUV and it's 7 seats.
And it was really expensive when it was new. It must be good.
This ticks all my boxes. No. Steer clear.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is Bentley. First nominee is the Continental GT with the W12. Look, yes, the W12 is an amazing engine when it behaves. This thing's just too complex. Plenty of electronic issues. One of my old bosses, a singer I used to work with, she had one. The thing had all sorts of suspension issues. Sometimes it would just drop on the ground, wouldn't move. Sometimes it would just dip to one side. And the guys from Bentley would come and pick it up on a tilt tray and go, oh yeah, this is Bentley things.
Bentley things, yeah.
It just happens.
Sign this NDA so no one asks you about it.
Pretty much. Insane depreciation as well.
Nuts.
It's a good car, but it's not good enough to offset all of the shitness.
My nominee here is the Bentley Bentayga.
That's my winner.
Yeah, basically, and for the reasons I will. You want to talk about it first, and I'll come in.
Okay.
Yep.
As a vehicle in a vacuum, it's unbelievably incredible in terms of performance and what it can do. It is one of the ugliest cars ever created.
It's very definitely a Bentley, though.
It's obviously a Bentley. Catastrophic levels of depreciation.
Yep.
Like, we are talking insane depreciation. But my issue with it is that a Genesis GV80 is, I think, 90% as good for potentially $400,000 less.
Yeah, and one of the problems I have with it's a bit of a platform branding scam because it's on the same platform as the Q7, the Lamborghini Urus, the Porsche Cayenne, and the Volkswagen Touareg. People don't realise that, and it kind of annoys me that it's the same platform, cosmetically different, obviously, and some of the underpinnings are different. The interior, obviously, aesthetically, it's different, but overall, it's still the same underneath. And I think if most people knew that, they probably wouldn't buy them.
It's like a bunch of certain high-end Swiss watches, where on the outside they look fantastic and it's all very flashy, but then the movement inside is just some generic mass-manufactured
It's a
thing.
swatch.
Yeah, could be. And it's just you're buying the branding and you're buying the bullshit, and I just don't rate
That's
it.
the thing. They're buying the branding with these these cars, people buy them because they're a Bentley.
Yeah.
Not because they're good.
Which I just find sad.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, let's be honest here. As car people, we all love to tinker with our cars, often to a point where we can't leave the bloody things alone. But this brings us to our new mates at Automotive Superstore, where you can shop from over 400,000 products, including car care, infotainment systems, audio, dash cams, lights, brakes, suspension, 4x4 gear, plus a whole lot more. Plus, to make life even easier, if you don't know the specific part that you're after, just type in your reg show and it will display all of the parts and accessories suited for your car. Best of all, you can do that completely online from the comfort of your lounge room because they ship Australia-wide. So if your car needs something fixed or upgraded, or maybe you're just in the market for a gift, hit the link below and shop from a huge range of products from Automotive Superstore.
Okay, BMW. Bloody hell. There are a lot to choose from here.
There were. There are some BMWs that are good, but some that are not so good.
We'll get to that in the best BMWs of all time. Okay, first nominee. I hate this car. It's the 218i Active Tourer.
Why does that car exist?
Okay, look, this, again in a vacuum, it's not actually a terrible car. It's actually not too bad, but it's not a BMW.
No.
A BMW should be
The ultimate driving machine. I've got a sign right there.
Yeah, and this is just not, it's ugly, it's their bad attempt at a slightly larger Honda Jazz.
Yeah.
The depreciation's terrible, build quality's underwhelming, it's
Why don't manufacturers go, look, let's leave the Honda Jazzes to the people who do them well? Why do they feel they have to provide something in that market?
Because there are a bunch of people out there that buy a brand and a badge rather than a decent car,
that's right.
and that's for these people.
Brand
this
snobs.
is it's for people that go, I've got to have a BMW. Well, you've got the second shittest BMW.
Yeah, good luck.
Because the worst BMW, and I think even BMW will agree with this, according to the sales figures.
My nominee, before you get to that, my nominee is first gen X5.
Such a shame.
You know, when they came out, they were really popular, and a few years later, they just started falling apart and continued to fall apart to the point where I don't see them anymore.
No, there's the ones that are out there have been.
They depreciated so badly, when they started falling apart, no one really knew how to fix them in the time. And they were terrible. A lot went wrong. Yeah,
it's a shame because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Frank Stevenson designed the X5. He also designed the McLaren P1.
When they came out, I thought they were a great looking car. I was totally impressed by it when they came out.
From behind in V8 form, those
with the
rear
huge tyres.
Hot looking thing, but just no. Still not the worst. Still not the worst BMW.
What's the worst BMW?
I hate this car.
I know.
I hate it. I think everybody hates it.
I think you're triggered by
sold any.
Yeah.
The XM. What an ugly thing this is.
Do they do market testing?
Well, I don't know. So the rumour on the street, Joe Achilles, BMW expert, he's pretty sure that on the download from BMW, they're like, just ignore that.
Oh, right. That never happened? Nothing to see here? Keep moving?
No.
Okay.
I've seen maybe 2 on the road. I live in Sydney. I'm on the road every day, and I reckon I've seen 2.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
I remember seeing them because I felt vomit in my mouth. I went, oh, what is that?
Physically ill.
Actually, I've got a quote from a journo mate of mine. He nails this thing. As a luxury car, it's too firm riding and frustrating to operate. As a sports car, it's too disconnected and clumsy to drive. As a family car, it's too expensive and not especially versatile. As a drag racer, it simply isn't that fast. Yeah, it's a hybrid, but that's just marketing so they can call it a hybrid. This is BMW at their absolute worst. Also, depreciation. This is terrifying. This is a pretty new car.
Yeah.
$370,000 here in Australia, brand new.
What?
Used, not even maybe 12 months old, $200,000.
That's a bargain.
So in 12 months, it's lost $170,000.
No, in 12 months you save $170,000. No?
It is easily the worst BMW of all time.
That's terrible, isn't
Shit
it?
car.
Yeah.
We were going to have Bugatti, no point, because they weren't really sold here. And are there any bad ones? Like a Veyron's not very good for the environment. It's bloody expensive, but of course it is. The worst Bugatti are those, like any of the early ones that are poorly modified.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Chery.
Yeah.
Who are our nominees?
Well, you do the first one.
Okay. J11, just shit. Terrible build quality, to be avoided. You're better off walking or getting public transport than one of these.
Yeah.
Early days for Chery, they didn't know what they were doing.
No.
Clearly, the J11 exists.
The Chery Emoda 5, what I want people to do is when they see one, walk up to it and just stand near it and keep looking at it for like a few minutes.
Yep.
And then you will totally see what we're talking about. The proportions, the styling, and everything about it, you just go, there's something, everywhere you look, there's something not quite right.
I think this is our winner, the Emoda 5.
Definitely.
Now, I'm going to defend them a little bit here, okay?
They're cheap.
They're cheap and they're always getting better. Yeah. I drove one of the first fleet that came to Australia, and it was pretty bad. The tech was all over the place, calibrations were everywhere, dynamics were everywhere, but they're working hard to improve it.
Yeah, and when you drove into the workshop, I've gone, oh, what is this? This looks really good. And then as I started looking at it, I've gone, that is not good.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I think the early ones are to be avoided.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't go near it. Okay, Chrysler. Here we go.
Plenty to choose from.
Loads to choose from. I actually found this one a challenge because there are just so many bad cars amongst these.
Yeah.
So nominees, I've got the Crossfire. Oh. This is just a rebadged Mercedes, which some people think might be good. That is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
All sorts of issues. Even the issues were so bad that it got to the point where I feel like Chrysler just ignored they were happening and hoping people would just ignore the whole car.
Yeah. They got nicknamed the Misfire for good reason.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Mate, have you any nominees?
Yeah, my nominee is the Chrysler Sebring.
Forgot about that.
Not a lot of them around, and I've had a couple in the workshop. In Australia, impossible to get parts for.
Right.
Just impossible. And you need parts because they break. Electrically, pretty average. Brakes and suspension, they're just, terrible car.
Wow. Not the winner, but...
Oh, no.
We agree on the winner.
Everyone knows what we're going to say.
But they do.
Yep.
PT Cruiser.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Sorry if you think this is cool. It's not.
No.
And sorry if you've ever had to work on one because they're a nightmare.
Is it...
the worst.
Is it it's just poorly put together? What's the...
It's poorly put together because they had to work within that shape. And to get access to anything is near impossible. To do a water pump on those things, you've got to take all the engine mounts out and drop the engine. It's just a nightmare. Everything you touch on them is difficult to access. They're just terrible.
It's funny because it does have a really strong fan base. So there's a community there that love the PT Cruiser, but there's also a community that love pug dogs. They're ugly, both the Pug and the PT Cruiser, and I feel like
I want to see a Venn diagram of who owns PT Cruisers and loves them, who also owns Pugs.
Yeah. I think the people that are fans of PT Cruisers are beautiful people because they're just taking pity on an incredibly ugly creature. I think we need more PT Cruiser people out there because they don't judge on looks. They find beauty in the ugliness, and I think that should be celebrated.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah. Next up, Chevrolet. Now, we nearly didn't include Chevrolet because we both were like, oh, there's hardly any Chevrolets in Australia. Yeah. No, there are actually a lot of Chevs in Australia.
Yeah.
It's one of those brands that before Holden collapsed, they were just kind of coming in through as imports and whatnot, and now they're here like with the Silverado and Camaro and stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Camaro, this is my first nominee. I drove a 2012 SS quite some time ago, and that was easily one of the most disappointing cars I've ever driven. It might not be the car's fault. Maybe it was whoever did the conversion from left to right-hand drive. But the whole car flexed through corners, rattled and creaked. And it was a brand new car back then.
We should also add that most of the Chevs in Australia have been converted.
Yeah.
And we should also, add for those people watching overseas that get a lot more Chevs than we do. There are probably far worse cars than we're mentioning. Just they weren't available in Australia.
No, we only sort of got the best Chevrolets, which often is still not great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, 2012 SS, and you've got basically any conversions.
Yeah, any conversion basically. A lot of them have been converted, and a lot of them are terrible.
Yeah. But the winner, God, this is going to make us unpopular. Yeah. It's the Corvette, specifically from 1975 to 1980. I've driven a couple of these.
Yeah, very underwhelming.
Utter rubbish. One was pretty original and it was shockingly bad. The other one I drove was like a massive restoration job and it was still bloody horrible.
Yeah, dark times for the old Corvette there.
Visually it looks good and that's where it ends.
Yeah.
I was honestly astounded at how bad the build quality is.
They got away with it.
But then
Sold
also,
a ton of them.
you look at a lot of European cars from 75 to 80. I've driven 911s and some Alfas from that period.
Yeah.
They're cracking good
They're
things.
okay, yeah.
These are terrible. Okay, from the US we move to France. Citroen.
Yep.
Our nominees. What have you got, mate?
C5. The C5. The early C5 is basically an abomination. The oleo pneumatic suspension is a nightmare everywhere you look. Oil leaks from all over the car, electrical issues all over the car, and you just can't get parts for them. In Australia, you can't get parts for them.
Well, Citroen don't even exist here anymore.
Well, yeah.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
Also another nomination, the DS3.
Yeah, that thing with the EP6, the Prince engine, it is a absolute donkey. Timing chains are a problem, oil leaks, oil consumption. Head gaskets, they're just utter rubbish.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not the winner, but the winner is the horrible C3, especially with the soft top. Just don't. There are so many other cars in this class that you could buy that are not anywhere near as horrible as this thing. I drove one in Europe and it was truly shit. The ergonomics are, it's like when they designed it, they didn't consider the human body. They went, what's going to look good? Like what looks good in press photos?
Yep.
Don't worry if anyone can fit in it or use anything. Oh God, it's horrible.
There was a time when you used to see a lot of them around. Again, it's one of those cars you don't see now.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they're nearly all gone.
Thank God. Okay, next up, another one that had plenty to choose from here.
Oh, yeah.
Dodge.
I know.
I've got the Caliber as a nominee.
Yep.
This thing has no redeemable qualities at all. Yeah, it's cheap, but that's not enough of a reason to buy one and put yourself through the torture of owning one.
No, and our second nominee, which is also the winner, is the Dodge Nitro.
Okay, firstly, it's so ugly. I don't understand how anyone could look at it and go, yeah, I want one of those in my driveway.
Yeah.
Just a mess.
Again, ergonomics are weird in those. Everything, you get in and drive it and the windows are there vertical and the driving position's terrible and all parts are just falling off around you.
I like you've written here, it's the worst engineered car I've ever worked on.
Yeah. This is the way they put them together. Like the brackets are weird, the way the cable management, the routing of plumbing, it's all just a bit weird, and you compare a bracket on one of these, they might make a bracket for a wiring harness. It's a bit of angle, bit of metal with an angle in it and maybe a bolt or a clip on each end and that's it.
Yep.
Compare that to something like a Toyota. That same bracket will have radiused corners, it'll have a triangulation part, it'll just be better in every way and anodized or nearly always better. These are terrible. Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get why I don't understand why you buy one. Like, even if you drive one, I drove one ages ago and I remember thinking, the only reason you'd buy it is if you didn't drive any other car on a test drive. It's just shit.
And you were visually impaired because you can't see how ugly it is.
You shouldn't be driving in the first place. Okay, next up, we're just going to fly through this one. It's Ferrari. It's not I'm sure some of the really older Ferraris can be a bit dodgy. I've got a nominee here, and it's a controversial one. It's the SF90. Look, this is an outrageously good car.
Yeah.
But in Australia, I just don't see the point of it. You cannot use that power on our roads, otherwise you're going to lose your license or you're going to kill someone.
Yeah.
But then if you take it to a track, well, then that's going to be expensive because of tyres and do you want to take your $1.2 million Ferrari to the track? And also, if you've got that money, buy an actual racing car. Buy like an open wheeler
it doesn't
and
make
tow
a lot
that
of
to the track.
sense.
So it's not a bad car. It's certainly not deserving of the worst Ferrari ever. I just don't see the point in it.
If you have a collection of Ferraris, you'd probably have one.
Yeah, cool.
And it's the same with our winner, the 456.
Yeah, the 456, not that attractive, not all that dynamic, super expensive to maintain because Ferrari, there's just so many other better options in this class.
Again, collectible.
But is it? Because it's just ugh. And I feel like, again, it's an example. It's like the BMW 218i. You're not buying a car, you're buying a badge.
Yeah.
And that's sad. All right, next we have Fiat, and it's kind of, it's sort of like Abarth, really. The nominee is the 500X. Compromising reliability here. Cost of parts is a nightmare, as is maintenance. Resale values, shockingly bad. I feel like you're swapping, how do I put this? It's like you're swapping any sense of logic purely for the image of it.
Yep.
And that's not how you should think about buying a car.
Bad way to buy cars.
You're better than that. You're better than default for brand appeal.
Yeah, and as I
style.
said about the Abarth, the transmissions in those are terrible. The automated manuals are problematic. The clutches just wear prematurely.
Yep.
Horrible to drive.
Yep.
Terrible experience.
Same as the other nominee, the 500. Like some of the early 500s. Later they got better, but early 500s, no. But the winner is the Punto. We're talking about Puntos from sort of 2014-ish. So,
does anyone love these? Are we going to get flamed for this?
Oh yeah, someone will love them out there.
Yeah.
It's like let's take everything that's great about a small car and then make it unreliable, expensive to maintain, give it horrendous depreciation, fill it with shocking ergonomics, make it rattle and squeak and make weird noises.
Yeah.
Why would you buy one? I don't understand.
Yeah, not okay.
So many other cars you should buy.
Yeah.
Okay, your old windscreen wipers have started to squeak and squeal and they're performing terribly. Well, I guess it's time to replace them. Well, you tell me, which way's easier? Jumping on wipertech.com.au, selecting the year, make and model of your car, hitting order on the exact right blades for your car, and then relaxing. Or try to find where your nearest parts store is, head into the store and have zero idea where the wipers are located, decipher how to fit them and hope to God they're the right ones, or you could always just remortgage your house and let your mechanic fit OEM replacements. Well, I know which way I'd be doing it. Hit the link to get some for yourself.
Next up, Ford.
Yeah.
Again,
Plenty to choose from, yeah.
You go your nominee first because this could be the end of ReDriven. We might get tarred and feathered by many.
Is it our winner as well?
No, I think it could be our winner. Do you want to make it the winner?
It's my winner. I'm on the front line with these things, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're deciding this right now. We're going to make Jim's pick the winner, but I'm attacking him, not me. So therefore we have two nominees. Ford Taurus, 1996 to 99, looks like a cockroach, drives like a cockroach.
They never got good looking. You know when a car comes out and it's sort of, I don't like it, and then it grows on you?
No.
They never got good looking.
I don't know how anyone at Ford thought that was a good idea.
Aerodynamic.
Is it?
I don't know, probably. How else do they justify the shape?
Next nominee, Ford Probe. This is like 1993 to 97.
Yeah.
What a shit car. I had a mate that bought one of these new, and he was like, hey, I got a sports car made in America, and it's just, I can't even, it's too many things. It's terrible. But what annoys me the most about this, at the same time, instead of bringing that abomination of a car here, Ford could have, that was from the States, Ford could have brought from Europe the Escort Cosworth. Yeah, it would have been more expensive, but it's a World Rally car.
Yeah.
Why, they could have charged $20,000 more for the Escort Cosworth and would have sold like hotcakes. Yeah. Instead, they gave us the Probe.
Yeah.
But the
winner here.
You go. I'm going to stand over here. I don't want anything to do with it.
The winner here is the Ford Ranger, 3.2 litre 5-cylinder. How many of these have to blow up before they really, are accepted as a terrible car? You can come back now. The people are coming with pitchforks. I need some help. EGR coolers, turbo failures, transmission complications. They're a terrible car. Objectively, they're a bad car.
This is one of those ones. I think it was our first video we ever shot was on the Ford Ranger.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because we were still working out how channel was going to work, and we didn't really give that the discredit it deserved in the day.
Yeah, and it's hard because the video is getting really good views, so we can't pull it down. But we need to revisit the Ranger and give that car the level of scrutiny that we give cars now.
You're better off looking at our Everest video.
Yeah,
because that covers it in way more detail. Yeah, and then after you watch that, you'll see what I mean. Yeah, they're a terrible car.
Yeah, I'm not going to agree because I've got mates that own them. And
so do I, but
All right. Okay, next up, this is a tough one. Genesis. I don't think they really have a bad car.
No, not really. It's hard to pick a bad one here. I'm
going to give a nomination to the GV80 only because I just personally don't really get the whole luxury SUV thing, but it's a fantastic car. Yeah, I'm just being a wanker. I'm going to give a winner. Okay. G70 Shooting Brake. Brilliant car. The only reason I'm giving it is because they didn't bring out the twin turbo V6.
Yeah, we got ripped off here a bit.
Yeah. The 2 litre is still a cracker. It's basically a Hyundai i30N engine. Yeah. So it's still awesome. Move on. Yeah. Okay, Great Wall.
Great fence.
Okay, that's good.
You like that? Yeah.
Nominee is the X240 from like 2012.
Yeah.
Just shoddy build quality,
Yeah.
complete lack of support.
Yeah.
Why when there's so many better options out there?
Yeah, and the same with the V240 Ute. Not great.
I think did we give that the winner?
What about the? I got the X20, the SUV.
Like X200.
X200.
Yeah.
What a hideous piece of crap.
Yeah.
Just ugly.
Yeah. Talk about a company that's improved a billion %.
Yeah.
Like the newer ones.
New ones look fine.
So much better.
These old girls, they're just finding their way.
Yeah.
And that's why they're on the list.
We're all shit at things we're new at.
Yeah.
And that's proof from Great Wall.
Yeah. Which leads nicely into our next car, Haval. Haval. Okay.
Haval. Again, early iterations. It's kind of equal nominees and winners here. Early iterations of the H2 and the H6.
Yeah.
Look, it's just...
They're equal losers, winners.
Yeah, I just feel like, unfortunately, the early examples of these, the people that buy them are the guinea pigs and suddenly become part of the research and development team, and that's not cool.
Yeah.
I just feel there's not enough support there. These are going to get really, really good. I just don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
So, kind of equal winners for Haval.
Yep.
Holden. This was This was
an easy choice.
This was an easy one.
Yeah.
This was an absolute breeze.
Yeah.
It was actually hard to decide between the nominee and the winner.
Is there a nominee and a winner, or are they both winners?
We can, I think
they're equally
we
as
run
crap.
the channel. We can they're equal winners here.
Yeah.
You know what we're going to say. It's the Cruise and the Captiva.
Yeah. The Cruise, well, they leak everything. They fall apart. They overheat. The engines blow up. They're just terrible.
Even when they're at their best, they're an underwhelming car.
Yeah. They were just, you know what it is? They were just not made to last.
No.
Let's build a car that lasts for 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
That's about it.
Yeah. And Captiva, actually, both of these are not actually Holdens, they're Daewoo's rebadged. And they've got a shocking reputation and they deserve it.
Yeah.
There are people out there that reckon they haven't had a problem with them, and there are people out there that like them, and they're wrong.
It's another car that we still see more cruisers. We still see a fair few cruisers, but I tell you what we don't see in the workshop is Captivas.
Yeah.
It's like up until a couple of years ago we used to see them all the time, and now it's like we just don't see them.
Yeah, no. And it's weird because with the Cruise, I know people that have put money into them to keep them running. Like, just let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. Honda, this was hard.
It's hard to pick a bad Honda.
Really hard.
They're mostly pretty good cars.
And even, I think
it's a stretch.
It's a stretch to call either of these bad.
The Insight is a good car.
Yeah.
But it's not the best Honda.
And it's also not quite as good as a Prius in any way. So the Insight is our first nominee, or our nominee. Overall, it's not a Prius in terms of support, parts, maintenance, quality, driving dynamics, and that's saying something because a Prius isn't exactly an exciting car to drive. Unfortunately, the Insight, just buy a Prius. The winner, and it's such a specific model, it's the CR-V from around 2017-ish, but specifically the 1.5 litre turbo, the early ones, because they have some oil dilution problems.
They do have some engine problems. Oil dilution is probably the worst of it. If you're going to get one, get the 2.4.
Yeah, the K24, legendary engine. It's been around for ages. It might not be as fuel efficient, might not have quite the torque, but it's just a bulletproof engine.
It'll go forever.
Also, it's just not an exciting car. Like, saying a CR-V is the worst Honda is like... It's like saying, that Fabergé egg is the worst of my Fabergé egg collection. They're not that bad. There really aren't any bad Hondas. What do you think? Are there bad Hondas? Who knows? Okay, Hyundai. The nominee goes to the Ioniq 6. We're not anti-EVs at all. Nope. For many people, an EV is a great choice in a car. But with the Ioniq 6, the depreciation is absolutely horrendous with these. I think not only because it's an EV, and a lot of EVs suffer from really bad depreciation, but it's just it's quite a polarising design, and that therefore means that you've got a very niche market that like them, and unfortunately the niche market that like them have already bought them, so therefore all the other ones just fall off a cliff in terms of value. It's a good car,
but just not the best Hyundai.
Not a great. It's a bit of a hit and a miss from Hyundai there. Yeah.
Interesting to see what the facelift looks like.
Yeah.
They might dial it down a bit.
The winner, though,
Yeah, the old Sonata.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're called in other countries. I'm sure they're called other things, but in Australia, the Sonata, the 2009 to 2019, the one with the Theta 2 litre and the 2.4, not a bad car generally, but the engines have a terrible reputation for expiring prematurely.
This is something there's another car coming up in part 2 that is same as basically the sibling to the Sonata. The car itself is great, but this Theta 2 engine, 2 litre 2.4, there are some issues there.
There's big class actions in US, people getting multiple new engines. And
do you think if it's got loads of kilometres on it, you'd like to think it would just keep lasting?
If it's got loads of kilometres and had a good service history, or if it's on its second engine, it's probably not a bad option.
Yeah.
But they do blow up.
You've got to make sure that is the case.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Infiniti. I've got the FX30D with the V9X engine, which is that abomination from the Renault-Nissan
Alliance. Yeah, not a great engine. Overall, the car's not a bad car, but that engine is to be avoided.
Yep. The winner is the Q60/G37, same car, but specifically the convertible. This is like 2009 to 2015.
Yep.
Okay, what this rubbish thing is, you take a Nissan 370Z, then lop the roof off so the body has a whole bunch of flex to it, then stick a whole bunch of bracing underneath it to stop the flex. Doesn't really stop the flex, but then the car weighs even more, so you take all the sportiness out of the driving experience. It's just a mess of a car.
Yeah.
It's
Why would you?
It adds 300 kilos to the curb weight. 300
Well
kilos.
Well played. What?
Like, what does 300 kilos do to the dynamics of the car?
Always helps.
Yeah. Because weight is good.
Yeah.
I have this argument that the only good convertibles are cars that were designed from the scratch to be a convertible. Lotus Elise, Mazda MX-5. When you lop the roof off a coupe or anything like that,
like an afterthought,
it just ruins it, and that is easily Infiniti's worst car. Isuzu, we're going to skip over this. They only bring out the D-Max and the MUX, and they're both pretty bloody good.
Although, if you went back a few years, you could talk about the Piazza.
Oh yeah.
Now, of its time, that wasn't a bad car, but it went through a very dark period, 10 years after it was available, and now it's gone full circle and it's actually quite cool.
Retro cool.
Yeah.
I don't mind the look of them.
Oh, same. They're kind of cool, but it's too old to be realistically on our list. But worth mentioning.
With the D-Max, we always say this on all of our videos. Every dual cab ute's pretty good, and they're all a bit shit. Which one you should buy comes down to your needs.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yep.
Jaguar, plenty to choose from here.
Yeah, and we didn't go back too far, but the S-Type. I just want to talk about. You've got some comments about the S-Type, but I want to talk about the engines available, the 4.2 supercharged V8 and the 2.5 litre V6. I've mentioned this before. The V6 is basically the same engine block as the V8, but they just blanked off the two back cylinders. Now just think about that for a minute. It's the same, almost the same casting, it's just blanked off at the back. I don't know if that's genius engineering or the cheapest, nastiest way to make a V6. It just melts my brain every time I see it.
Then on top of that, you've got there's water pumps fail, you've got electrical issues, you've got trim issues, both exterior and interior trim tends to fail. Those interiors also are not resilient, switches fail, leathers wear out. Again, massive depreciation, and again, just a pretty okay car to drive. What? No, bad. And that's not even the worst Jaguar. The worst Jag is the bloody X-Type. Now, every time we mention how bad the X-Type is, we get torn to shreds in the comments. And we get that they've got their fans. This is a Holden Mondeo. Very similar to a Ford Mondeo. Yeah. It's a Ford Mondeo, but even visually, it's like, I think it looks like a cartoon version of a proper Jag.
Yeah.
It doesn't work visually.
Weird scaled down version, it's a bit weird.
All sorts of issues, electrical issues, trim issues, same as the S-Type.
The Mondeo of that era isn't great either.
No.
Actually not that good at all, really. But that's just a terrible, and you can't get parts for them.
No. This was a Ford when Ford were far from their best.
Yeah. Ford was not a good custodian of Jag.
No. Also the parts thing as well. Actually getting the actual Jaguar components, getting harder and harder, and they're getting more and more expensive. And at the end of the day, it's still a pretty average car.
Yeah.
It's a Mondeo. No. And finally, for part one, Jeep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another brand where there was plenty to choose from.
Isn't it funny? With Honda, I was like, oh man, trying to find a bad Honda is such a challenge. Jeep, how to take so many of their cars and compress it into a nomination and a winner. Yeah. That was a challenge.
Yeah, they make a lot of terrible cars. Sorry, Jeep fans, but they really do.
You know how I walked away when you had Ford Ranger?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, you jumped on the grenade for that. I'm jumping on the grenade for this one. Okay, my nominee is the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk. Yeah, are we ready for a rant? Here we go.
Go.
Okay, so it's $110,000 for a cheap one, $200,000 for one of the better ones. So you're paying 110 to 200 grand for a vehicle that the trim's going to fall off, both exterior and interior. You're going to have electrical issues. The infotainment system sucks. Build quality is pretty appalling. But then the whole reason you buy a Jeep is so you've got some, an SUV that can do a whole bunch of stuff like go off-road. No, not in the Trackhawk. With this piece of shit, you now don't have any real SUV ability from it because it's trying to be a performance car. But it is an SUV, so it makes for a rubbish performance car. Like, it's quick in a straight line and might be okay around corners. I just don't see the point. It's an exercise in compromise. Yeah. You're not getting a good SUV and you're not getting a good performance car. You're getting crap in the middle. And for this sort of money, you could buy a Y62 Patrol, which is still a V8, so it sounds great, but it'll also go off-road and it tows and it's got a massive boot and fits 7 people. Brilliant. And then when you get $60,000 left over, buy an actual performance car, like a Lotus Elise or something.
Yeah, agreed.
Just
100%
why?
agreed.
Why?
I don't know.
And again, that's not even the worst Jeep, but those that own it are going to go, yeah, but this super fast and mine does 9s. I don't care. When are you going to do a 9-second quarter mile in Australia on a public road? You're going to lose your license. Or you're going to kill somebody. Yeah. I hate the Trackhawk.
Do you?
It looks great.
I would never have picked that.
It looks amazing and it sounds great, and that's where it ends.
Yeah.
There's my rant. I'm so sorry. I'm so
well
passionate
said,
against it.
No. I get it. Well said. I agree. To be fair, yeah.
Anyway,
moving on.
What's the winner? We've got a tie.
We've got a tie because the Patriot and the Compass.
We're talking first generation Patriot and second gen.
It's not really a Jeep, is it?
All right. Overall, rubbish vehicles. Yeah. Parts are a nightmare. No backup support. Everything falls apart. Electrical issues, infotainment system issues, trim pieces fall off. They depreciate like crazy. Yeah. Just no.
One thing I just want to say on these, and I mentioned it earlier with the Nitro, the way they're put together. Now, any mechanics out there will know what I'm saying here. The way these things are put together, the bracketry, if something's mounted on a bracket, it's a dodgy looking bracket with weird looking fasteners. The clips are all usually very cheap. The wiring connectors are terrible. If you've worked on these, you'll understand. When you compare all this sort of stuff to something like a Toyota, where that same bracket will be triangulated and coated in a more rust resistant type of coating. The fasteners are all better, the clips are better, but these Jeeps are just put together cheap and nasty. They're just,
And then on top of that, even if you get a good one, they're not that good. An absolute mint condition, meticulously maintained one doesn't offer anything better than dozens of other cars in this class. We're talking medium and small SUVs here. There's thousands of them to choose from. Why the hell would you buy one of these?
Yeah, not to mention the dealership experience a lot of owners really struggle with too.
Yeah, no, overall Patriot and Compass they're the worst
They're
Jeeps.
the bottom.
So that's the end of part one. Part two is coming up. We're going to go from L through to V. If there's any that we've missed in this one,
there will be. There'll be plenty we missed, and put them all in, and cars from other areas as well, different countries. Tell us what sucks.
I think that's what I love so much about car community is that we can all have different opinions. Obviously, if your opinion is different to what we think, you're obviously wrong. That's totally cool as well. Also, we're doing the best cars from every manufacturer coming up. We haven't started writing that yet. What do you think? What's your favourite car company, and what's the best car from that company? Let us know in the comments. See you in part two.